Good morning, everyone. Um, Today we will discuss our new lesson titled News Release. It's page number 122. The page number 122. It's a new chapter. Okay, so let's look at the first paragraph. The first paragraph here simply talks about, the first news release, which was about a graduation announcement issued in 1758 by King's College. Now that was the first news release. And then we have in the same chapter, we have the introduction of what this chapter will deal with. For example, if you look at paragraph number 1, 2, 3, 4, paragraph number 4. So to start with, this chapter introduces you to the format and content of news releases. You will explore different types of releases and writing techniques associated with them. You will discover the news releases have many purposes and offer various benefits. They give information to reporters preparing stories for daily newspapers and provide facts to radios and television journalists who will follow up with interviews. They attract photographers to schedule events and offer wire services information that can be boiled down into briefs and summaries. They serve as a prepackaged report that can be used by smaller newspapers and special interest publications. And then we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points, the main points of this chapter. So in this chapter we will focus on how to write in appropriate news style. We also have to be able to use the appropriate format for news releases. We will be able to understand and apply the basics of news release writing, and to be able to write different kinds of leads and news briefs, and to be able also to write news releases for local media, and last, to demonstrate competence in writing news releases for various purposes. So these are the main things that we will discuss and that we will deal with in this chapter. Um, uh, okay, so let's look at the first topic that we will discuss today, which is news style writing. Okay, now the first paragraph reads, the news release is a communication format commonly used by organizations to provide information to news media. So this is a definition of what a news release is. Before we talk about specifically about the news releases, it is important to review some of the conventions of news style writing that the effective public relation writer must observe. Drawn from print journalism, these are based on the need to be both objective and accessible to the audience. And most of what follows will be reminders, because you probably have learned these in previous classes or other writing activities. However, it is important material to review. Remember that the same news values and quality writing that make a good news story are needed to make a good news releases. So simply this paragraph talks about how we make ourselves, clear and understandable when we write news releases. When you write a news release, you write it to the public, and you want the public to understand you. You want the people to understand you. Without making people understanding you, then you will have a problem, or you fail in your job to be a public relation writer. So the first thing that you have to do is to write in a language that is effective and that can be understood by the public. Now, how do you do that? How do you make your writing effective and understandable by the public? Now, the first thing that you have to take or bear in mind is to write short sentences. Now, short sentences, what do we mean by short sentences? Look here at the definitions provided here. All public relation writing should strive for simplicity of style. So the first thing that you have to know about public relation writers is that you have to be very simple. But news writing especially cries out for this quality. Use short, simple words, period. use short, simple words. So the words have to be simple, and you have to use a short word. Readability studies suggest using words averaging 1/2 syllables, and sentences should be brief with an average of 16 words when the writing is for general audience. So if you write for a general audience and you feel that your sentence goes over 15 or 16 words, it means that this sentence is long. So what you need to do is to make sure that your sentence is 16 words or less. If it goes over 16, 2 words, that's fine. But if you have, like, for example, let's say 30 words in a sentence, or 40 words, this means that you have a problem in your writing, that your writing or that your sentence is not short. When a text, or sorry, for visual appeal and readability, paragraphs also should be short, generally 6 lines maximum. And this is very important. We all the time write, but when it comes to news releases for public relation writing, you have to take into consideration the length of the paragraph. The paragraph should not exceed 6 lines. So if you go over 6 lines, it means that there is something extra that you add to this paragraph. When the text is transferred, and I'm continuing reading here, when text is transferred into newspaper columns, a single high typewritten line on 8.5 by 11-inch paper will yield about 2.5 or 3 lines of newspaper text. Thus, 6 type lines of the news release type would yield about 15 lines in newspaper, more than 2 inches of unbroken type. To ensure easier reading, newspaper need more frequent paragraph breaks. So simply, if you look at any newspaper, go to Jordan Times, or go to any English newspaper, the Jordan Times, sorry, the New York Times, the Washington Post, or any newspaper that you have in mind. If you look at the paragraphs there, you will find that they have short paragraphs. Sometimes they have like paragraph of 2 or 3 sentences, and less than 6 lines. So when writing for public relation, you have to be very short, and you have to be very simple. Now here we have the exercise 6.1, and I want all of you to do it, and make sure you check your e-learning today, because I'm gonna ask you to do this. So let me read the exercise and explain it, and then I'll let you do it at home or by yourself. Rewrite the following lengthy sentences in short version that remains the same information as the original. Your revision probably will be longer than the original because it will include more than 1 sentence, but no individual sentence should be longer than 20 words. So simply here you have how many? You have 3 sentences, okay? Or you have 3 sentences. Now these sentences should be broken into simple and short sentences. How could you do that? You have to do this bearing in mind that your revision probably will be longer than the original. So simply when you break these sentences, the number of lines will be longer, because you try to keep the meaning of these sentences. But at the same time, no individual sentence should be longer than 20 words. So every sentence should not be longer than 20 words. Do you remember before we mentioned that has to be 16 or maybe 17, 18 words? Now with these sentences, you should not have more than 20 words per sentence. Now how do you count words in a sentence? You can do this in Microsoft Word. Just highlight the sentence and look at the word count. You will be able to see how many words you have written, and the sentence should not go beyond 20 words. Now these are the sentences. Read them and try to break them down into simple and short sentences, but make sure that your sentences do not exceed 20 words. I think this is clear. Now the next, here we have some tips about simple language. Now what do we mean by simple language? Look, news releases, and I'm reading now this page number 124. News releases have a few language idiosyncrasies that should be respected. Memorize and use them routinely. Here are some of the most common writing conventions for news releases. Now, these tips or these conventions, you should take them into consideration. Simply, you have to memorize them. Now, the first one is use the basic word said rather than striving for more adjective, subjective alternatives such as exclaimed, proclaimed, declared, related, asserted, and remarked. So the simple word that you may use in news releases is the word said. Avoid these words as such as exclaimed, proclaimed, declared, related, asserted, etc. Make careful use of adjective varieties such as noted, added, pointed out, replied, declined to comment. So make careful use of adjectives varieties such as. So here we have so these adjectives that you can use in writing news releases, but you have to be very careful when you use them, and you have to know the function of these words, like the word noted or added or pointed and replied, declined to comment. All these words have specific function and specific meaning, so don't confuse the use of these words. The next one, avoid subjective superlatives such as best, most useful, and greatest. Now, this is very problematic, by the way. Don't use best, most, and greatest. Why? Because simply if you use these adjectives, it means that you are subjective, that you have an opinion, that you are not a public relation writer, but you are writing for the sake of someone or in favor of someone. So don't use superlative adjectives, and try to be objective. Avoid using words such as always, the best, the most, the greatest, etc. Use great care with objective superlatives such as biggest, first, unique, only. Now, if you sometimes you may need to use some words such as biggest, first, unique, only, and this because you want to give us, like the public people or the public, you need to give us some pieces of news, so you have to use some of these adjectives such as biggest, first, unique, only. But when you use them, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful because people may not trust you as a writer if you try to be subjective and not objective. Please go to the dictionary and check the meaning of subjective and objective. Avoid hard selling advertising based terms such as breakthrough and revolutionary. Now, these words are, or considered as an over exaggeration. Don't over exaggerate. Don't over exaggerate. Using the word breakthrough or revolutionary, these are, very strong words, and it's better not to use them. Use the next one. Use simple verb tenses such as will begin rather than the progressive forms such as will be beginning, which indicate an ongoing action. Now here, the simple present. That's the best way to describe something. Use the simple present. Avoid the present continuous in writing news releases. Okay, so you say the president will open. The president will talk about, but don't say that the president will be talking about. Will because the continuous, it means that this action is going on, okay, or will be going on, and then you cannot make sure that this action will be going on because it's in the future. So use simple present, or use simple rather than simple verb tenses rather than progressive or continuous. Prefer future forms of verbs such as will attend rather than is planning to attend. Again, use the future tense will attend rather than is planning to attend, because first you are talking about a future. That's the first thing. The second thing is that now when using an ing to talk about the future here, you talk about the plan. So using ing to talk about future, it means you have a plan. But when you use will as a simple verb, it means that this action, is like there is some kind of certainty or truth about this, that this will happen. I will talk to you. I will meet you. It means like there is a kind of a certainty in it. Unlike when you use the verb ing. Past perfect. Prefer past perfect forms of verbs for past action of indeterminate time. The company has appointed a new director. So prefer past perfect forms of the verb for past action of the indeterminate time. So simply, you have an action that happens in the past, but you're not sure about when this action happened, like the specific point when this action happened. In this case, use, perfect. So here, use present perfect here. Like this sentence, the company has appointed a new director. Now, why they use present perfect? Because simply you don't know the exact time of the action that happens in the past. So in this case, use present perfect. But if you know it, for example, if you say last year, then you know that it is last year. You say he went, but if you don't know when he went to the, for example, to to the city, etc., you say he has gone, because you don't know this the exact time when he performed this action. Now the last one, use past tense only with specific times and only when the time is relevant. The company had appointed a new director last week. So see here, last week is a specific action and specific time. We know when this director was appointed. So here we use simple past because we know exactly when this company appointed the director. But if we don't know when they appointed this director, then you use present perfect. All right. So I think we will take exercise 2. What time is it now? Now it's 16. Okay. Okay. Exercise number 2 is easy. Now what I want you to do is this. Use simple language. Circle the number of the correct answers in each set. Answers are listed at the end of this chapter. Okay. Circle the number of the correct answer in each set. So we have 3 sets, okay, on each group. Now we have 1A, 1B, 1C, and we have 2A, 2B, 2C, and we have 3A, 3B, 3C. So now every group of 3 sentences, there is one sentence that is correct. I want you to choose just one sentence that you think is correct, okay, and skip the others. Now we have group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. So I think this is enough for today. I don't want to give you too much homework. I want you to enjoy your corona break. So I explained the pages number 122, 123, 124, and I also explained the exercises 6.1 and 6.2. What I want you to do is this. Now, this class is recorded. You can listen to this class as many times as possible, okay? In this case, I don't want you to, if you want, you can read it by yourself and listen to my class and see how you understand my discussion. But what you need to do now is to do the 2 exercises, 6.1 and 6.2. And this is the homework for today. And you have 4 days to do this homework. The due for this homework is, I think it will be Thursday. So Thursday is our next class. Now, one thing that I want to tell you guys is that when you write, please make sure that you use your own language. Don't plagiarize. Don't use other people's language. I want to see you writing. I don't want to see other people writing. Okay. And also, for questions, please ask me on e-learning, because this is good for you and for me, because the University of Jordan, they insisted that we use e-learning rather than Facebook and other social media, because talking to me on Facebook is not official. The official thing is to contact me through e-learning. So please, if you have any question, ask me there, and we keep the Facebook groups to any urgent announcement that we will have. And please, for your discussions, keep them to the minimum, especially on Facebook groups, because this will distract other students. Thank you very much for listening, and have a wonderful day.